Thank you so much. Good afternoon. Once again, thank you for your interest and participation in the Connecticut State Department of Education IEP Preview Series. My name is Brian Klimkowitz. I'm the Special Education Division Director at the state. And on behalf of the CSDE, I'd like to welcome you to our session, whether you're participating live this afternoon or recording this session at a later time. The CSDE is committed to improving the quality of our IEPs and special education process. We're in the midst of a historic statewide special education improvement effort and the transition to statewide launch of the Connecticut Special Education Data System, otherwise known as CT-SEDS, which will provide a foundation for achieving that goal. A tremendous amount of effort and strategic planning and collaboration has resulted in a multifaceted system of training and technical assistance designed to support our educators, parents, and members of the community. And we're extremely proud of the collective efforts that have resulted in our IEP quality training and soon to be released CT-SEDS navigation training. We know the challenges that are brought on by change in a statewide initiative, but we also know that any efforts to benefit students with disabilities in our state is a journey worth taking. I'd like to thank you, our participants, for your partnership, support, and your attention during this exciting time. This initiative will be successful because of our educators and parents and students across the state. So thank you once again. So our next slide will show you the topic of our session today. This is our second in a series that's designed to preview and highlight various components of the special education process. Sessions are taking place each Monday afternoon from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. and can be accessed using the same Zoom link for each session. We're going to go ahead and drop the IEP series flyer within the chat so you can see that full schedule and access each of our sessions. Today's focus is on a new concept called the Planning and Placement Team Record of Meeting, as well as a Planning and Placement Team Summary. Steve, thank you for putting that information in the chat. Our commitment to you throughout the series is to do our best to start and end on time. The sessions will be recorded for future viewing. And Steve, I'm not sure if you're able to click on that link there. I just wanted to show you direct access. And once you have the slide deck and access to our IEP site, it will take you directly to our previously recorded sessions. And we'll take a moment to share that web page with you to ensure that you can access our recorded sessions. What I will do in addition to that is ensure that each of our directors in our public schools and all of our LEAs receive that direct link so that you can see in our new IEP website, we've essentially just put the table of our sessions, and we're going to place the recordings right in that table. Steve, we're still seeing the PowerPoint, so perhaps at the end we can show our participants.
Here it is. Sorry about that.
What that looks like.
There it is.
There it is. Perfect. Yeah. So if you scroll up a little bit, Steve, this is our statewide new IEP website. So if you scroll slightly down, you can see that table that I described there. And each of our recorded sessions, there was one from last Monday, which was around the PPT meeting notice. That is now posted for viewing, and please do share that with all and anyone that's interested. As we hold meetings, we're going to do our best to get those up in a timely manner, but certainly within the week of the previous session. Thanks a lot, Steve. Appreciate the demonstration there, and that direct link is always helpful. Our structure of today's session, like last week, will be a brief presentation followed by a question and answer session. Joining me in co-presenting this information today is Michael Tavernier, Bureau of Special Education Consultant Extraordinaire, and facilitating our session is Steve Profit, director from CERC, as well as the CERC team, and Greg Glidden behind the scenes. So thank you, Steve, for your partnership in helping to facilitate these sessions. Our goal for today is to help you understand situations which a PPT team record of meeting is required, the process for documenting the optional summary of planning and placement meeting we'll also touch upon, and to share a preview of how the system will support the generation of those documents. Due to the format of the presentation, you will not have an opportunity to unmute. However, we do encourage you to ask questions. If you do have a question at any time during our session, please place it in the question and answer panel, which you'll find at the bottom of your screen next to the chat button. Please do not put your questions in the chat. The question and answer panel is very helpful to us because we're able to monitor and track those questions both live as well as post-session to make sure if we do not have time to answer your question live, we can go back and provide that information at a later date. And it also helps us inform future training and resources. The series is not a replacement for our IEP quality training or our CT SEDS user navigation training, but are designed rather to supplement and assist you in your transition from your current system to the process attained within CT SEDS, which will launch on July 1, 2022. At this point in time, I will turn it over to Michael, who will take you through important detailed information related to those two concepts, the PPT record of meeting and the PPT summary. Michael?
Thanks, Brian. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to begin by sharing information related to a new concept called the PPT record of meeting. As you know and can see here, on our current IEP document, page 1 contains demographic and disability-related information, the purpose of meeting, and meeting participants. Page 2 contains the PPT recommendations and an optional summary of the PPT. And page 3 is the required prior written notice. As you probably are aware, pages 1, 2, and 3 are not actually part of a student's IEP. Currently, when a PPT meeting occurs and the student either does not have an IEP, for example, the first PPT meeting to review a special education referral and consider the need for an initial evaluation, or when a student does have an IEP, but there are no recommended revisions to the IEP, the district is required to send the parent pages 1, 2, and 3 no later than 5 school days after the PPT meeting. Our improved IEP was designed to shift away from being organized by page number and is organized by section. Also, our goal was to include only required and essential information in the IEP to reduce the amount of content and result in a document that is less cluttered and easier to understand. The prior written notice was removed and is now a separate document. We're going to discuss the new prior written notice in greater detail in session 3 of our series next week. Additionally, the optional summary was removed from the new IEP. When we posted the draft IEP document on our website last year and requested input, feedback from the field was mixed on the removal of the PPT summary. Some people thought it was great, and others said that they would miss it. In response to this feedback, our compromise solution was not to add it back into the IEP, but rather make a summary required in the record of meeting document and optional when the record of meeting is not used. Because of the formatting changes to the IEP, we can no longer require districts to send the parent pages 1, 2, and 3. Pages 1, 2, and 3 won't exist anymore. So we developed the PPT record of meeting. As of July 1st, 2022, a PPT record of meeting must be used to document a PPT in the following scenarios. When the student does not yet have an IEP, examples would be PPT-1 or PPT-2 when the child is found not eligible. Another scenario is when the PPT convenes and reviews the IEP, but does not revise the IEP. And other examples could be for a manifestation determination or a restraint and seclusion review. It is also important to note that a prior written notice must also be completed if and when the district is proposing to initiate or change the identification eligibility of a child, an evaluation, an educational placement, or the provision of FAPE. So, to review, the current practice of sending pages 1, 2, and 3 will shift to sending the record of meeting and a prior written notice. Hopefully, you are now starting to understand the context in which a record of meeting is used. The next few slides will demonstrate how the CT-SED system supports this process. The record of meeting is included in the process flow of the referral evaluation module of CT-SEDS. A record of meeting can also be generated as a standalone document if the student already has an IEP. This screenshot demonstrates the interface in the referral evaluation module. As you can see, starting a record of meeting is very simple. The process to generate a record of meeting begins by clicking on the blue link in the upper right-hand corner. The first step for a user to complete a record of meeting is to select the appropriate associated PPT meeting. Once selected, additional information displays, and the user can begin entering information into the document template. The user selects the reason that the record of meeting is being required. As mentioned just a bit ago, these scenarios include when a student does not yet have an IEP, when a PPT convenes and reviews an IEP but does not revise it, for a manifestation determination or a restraint seclusion review when no changes to the IEP are going to be made. As you can see, required data such as the meeting date and a list of people invited to the PPT meeting will automatically pre-populate from the previously selected PPT meeting notice. This section is used to document who actually attended the PPT meeting. As a reminder, if a required member of the PPT is not in attendance, a PPT attendance excusal document must be created. And of course, this can only be done if the parent agrees. After indicating why the record of meeting is being required, there are only two sections for the user to complete: the summary and the PPT recommendations, similar to our current IEP page 2. In this section of the user interface, the user will also have an opportunity to select documents that the parent is required to receive. In the system, a hover over tooltip is included to assist users in knowing which documents are required under which scenarios. The final steps in the process are to select if a translated document is needed, save the information that was entered, and create a draft or final document. This next slide depicts a draft document format and presentation of the record of meeting. Very straightforward and easy to read. Once again, most of the required information is pulled from the meeting notice and the system. The only sections to complete are the summary, recommendations, and parent resources. Okay, so we're going to shift gears now, and I'd like to discuss the optional PPT meeting summary. This slide shows you the current page 2 of our IEP. As mentioned earlier, through our IEP improvement and stakeholder feedback process, the PPT meeting summary was removed from the new IEP document. School districts may, however, wish to continue the practice of completing a meeting summary in order to document important topics and areas of discussion that arise during the meeting. The system allows a school district to complete a meeting summary if they choose, and because it's not required, it is not built into the process flow, but accessed as a standalone document. The next few slides will demonstrate how the system supports this process. The summary of PPT meeting document can be found in the Create View Documents section of CT-SEDS. The user selects the document they wish to complete and then chooses to create either a draft or a final document. Similar to the record of meeting, the user is then asked to select the appropriate PPT meeting notice for the corresponding meeting, which will then pre-populate most of the required data. In this example, only one PPT meeting notice had been recreated, so it is the only one to check. But typically, the user will see a list of previously finalized notices and will need to select the appropriate one. Once the appropriate corresponding meeting notice is selected, the meeting date will pre-populate and a summary text box appears. The text box has a spell check feature and will expand as needed. When the summary is complete, the user will save the content, select if a translated version is needed, and then move to create the final document. The last step in the process is to select the View link to access the final document. This is a screenshot of the final summary of PPT meeting document. Required data populated from the PPT meeting notice appears at the top, and text from the note taker at the bottom. In this example, it's only one sentence. It is important to note that if a school district maintains the summary, it will become part of the student's record and would need to be made available as part of a records request. Also, if a district chooses to utilize the optional summary feature, it will need to establish a policy on sharing the meeting summary with parents and be consistent in implementing that policy. There should never be a case when the summary is used at two PPT meetings for different students, and one of the parents receives the summary and the other one does not. In summary, the current practice of completing and providing pages 1, 2, and 3 to the parent will be shifting to completing a record of meeting and a separate prior written notice. It's really not any additional work, it's just a different format. Also, for PPT meetings where a record of meeting is not used, there will be an opportunity to create an optional meeting summary as a standalone document. At this time, we're going to stop the recording and I will turn it back over to Brian and Steve to facilitate our question and answer session. Thank you.